I never thought I'd end up here, sitting in the driver's seat of my old battered car, listening to the rain tapping on the roof and watching the city lights blur through the wet glass. My daughter Sophie was asleep on the back seat, her little blanket pulled up to her chin, her tiny chest rising and falling with each soft breath. Sometimes I would just look at her and wonder how a little girl could carry so much hope, while I felt so completely lost. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to shut out the fear and exhaustion, but it was impossible. The city felt quiet tonight, almost too quiet, and that made my heart beat louder than the storm outside. It had been a long day, and really it had been a long few months. After losing my job at the small marketing firm, I had nowhere to go. My savings were gone, eaten up by rent I couldn't pay, overdue bills and groceries that kept getting more expensive each week. My apartment lease ended last month, and no one would let a single mom with a toddler stay without proof of income. So here I was in my old Toyota, parked in a corner lot near the edge of downtown, hoping no one would notice us. I tried to convince myself that this was temporary, that tomorrow I would find something, anything, to make life normal again. But nights like this made me doubt everything. The air smelled of wet asphalt and diesel, and the only warmth came from Sophie snuggled against a thin blanket I had managed to find. I reached over and brushed her hair from her forehead, careful not to wake her. "Mommy's here," I whispered, even though she was already asleep. My voice sounded hollow in the car, bouncing off the windows, and I shivered. I had tried to make this car feel like home. I had packed a small bag with diapers, a change of clothes, and a few snacks. I even had a little pot to heat water, though tonight I didn't feel like eating anything. I just wanted to hide from the world. Some nights, the exhaustion hits so deep that it feels like my body has forgotten how to move. Tonight was one of those nights. I had parked near a quiet side street, thinking no one would disturb us. But then I noticed a shadow moving near the other end of the lot. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the streetlights, the rain creating dark shapes in the puddles. But no, it was a person walking slowly toward my car. My stomach dropped and my heart started pounding. I held my breath, hoping they wouldn't notice me. Maybe they were a security guard, maybe someone passing by, or maybe someone looking for trouble. My hand instinctively moved to the keys between my legs. The figure stopped for a moment in front of my car, just standing there in the rain. I couldn't make out their face, but I could see the shape of a man, tall, broad shoulders, wearing what looked like a suit. My mind raced. A man in a suit at this hour? My first thought was to lock the doors to hide, but something about the way he stood there didn't feel threatening. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Please, not trouble," I whispered to myself. Then softly there was a knock on my window. One careful, deliberate knock. My fingers froze on the keys. I wasn't expecting anyone. Who knocks on a car window at midnight in the rain? My pulse jumped. I glanced at Sophie, sleeping so peacefully, unaware of the sudden panic coursing through me. I had to stay calm. I had to act normal, even though every instinct in my body screamed to hide. I slowly rolled down the window just a crack, enough to see the man's face. He had dark hair, sharp but kind features, and eyes that somehow looked serious and gentle at the same time. He didn't smile, but there was something in his expression that didn't make me feel immediately threatened. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm, almost soft. "I don't mean to startle you, but I noticed you're... Well, I just wanted to see if you're okay." I blinked at him. My first reaction was disbelief. "I'm fine," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though it sounded shaky even to me. I had no idea who this man was, why he was here, or why he seemed to care. It didn't make sense. People usually walk by, ignore you, maybe look down their noses if you're homeless, if you're struggling. Rarely did anyone stop and actually ask if you were okay. He nodded slightly, as if understanding more than I was saying. "I can see that things are difficult. I want to help if I can." My mind raced, trying to figure out if this was a scam, a trick, or something worse. But there was something in his tone that made me pause. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was the exhaustion of pretending to be invisible for so long. I didn't know. I don't know," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't want trouble. I have a little girl here." I nodded toward Sophie in the back seat, who stirred but didn't wake. "I see that," he said. "And I wouldn't do anything to put her in danger. He paused, his gaze shifting toward Sophie. I think you deserve a chance. Maybe just a small one. If you're willing to accept it. My chest tightened. A chance. I hadn't felt that word apply to me in years. A chance at something better, something normal, something safe. I wanted to believe him. But the truth was I didn't know how. How do you trust someone like this? How do you let hope in after so many nights alone in a car? With nothing but worry and fear. The rain kept falling, washing over the car like a slow, endless drumbeat. I looked at Sophie, at her peaceful little face, and I thought about everything I wanted for her. I wanted a bed, a warm home, breakfast without worry, a life without fear. And maybe, just maybe, this stranger in the rain could help. I swallowed hard and finally nodded, just slightly. Okay, I whispered. I'll listen. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that doesn't need words to feel real. That's all I'm asking. And in that moment something shifted. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. A flicker of hope, tiny and fragile, but there. And I didn't know it yet. But this night, this knock on my window was going to change everything. The night felt heavier after that first conversation. I didn't sleep much, not really. Sophie had woken up once, and I had to calm her down, rocking her gently in the back seat while the rain poured outside like it wanted to wash away all the pain in the world. I kept thinking about him, the man who had knocked on my window. Michael Reed, he had said his name was. CEO, successful, important. And yet here he was, standing in the rain like someone who actually cared. I couldn't stop replaying his words in my head. I think you deserve a chance. I had almost laughed at myself. A chance? After everything I had lost? After sleeping in my car, being judged by strangers, feeling invisible for months? The thought felt foreign, almost impossible. And yet, it stayed with me, a small spark that I hadn't realized I had been missing. The next morning I tried to push it away. I drove to a small cafe nearby, parked in the empty lot, and let Sophie eat a little breakfast from the small bag of snacks I always carried. People walked past us, busy in their own worlds, paying no attention. I envied them, their lives so ordinary, so safe. I wanted that for Sophie. I wanted that for myself. But how could it happen? How could I trust a stranger? My phone buzzed suddenly. A number I didn't recognize. Hesitant, I answered. Hello. My voice was hoarse from the night before. Emily. The voice was calm, measured, and warm. It's Michael. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I froze. My heart raced again. It felt like it had been years since anyone had said my name with kindness. No, it's okay, I said, trying to sound casual. What's this about? I just wanted to follow up. If you're willing, I'd like to meet you, talk more about what I said last night. Nothing formal, just a conversation. I hesitated. My mind screamed at me, be careful, don't get hurt, don't trust strangers. But my heart, it whispered something different. Maybe this was the opportunity one had been waiting for. Maybe it was time to stop hiding and start living. Okay, I said finally. I can meet. When? He gave a time. A quiet little office on the edge of downtown. I agreed, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity twisting in my stomach. I didn't tell anyone. Who would understand? Who would believe that a CEO was taking interest in a woman living in her car? Only Sophie, really, and she didn't care about titles or money. She just cared that mommy smiled today. The day passed slowly. I kept Sophie close, playing with her little toys in the car while I tried to psych myself up. By late afternoon, I finally parked near Michael's office. The building was enormous, shiny, intimidating. I felt completely out of place, my old hoodie and worn jeans standing out against the polished lobby and well-dressed people walking past me. When I finally walked into the office, I saw him. Michael Reed. Standing behind a large glass desk, looking calm, professional, but somehow approachable. He smiled faintly when he saw me. Emily, he said warmly. Thank you for coming. I nodded, words catching in my throat. He gestured to a chair across from him. I sat, holding Sophie's hand tightly, feeling small and fragile. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. What does someone like him want with someone like me? Michael leaned forward slightly. Emily, I want to be honest with you. I didn't come here to give you a handout. I came here because I believe in helping people who try, who care, who haven't given up. I saw that in you last night. I blinked. Could someone really believe in me, even after everything I had failed at? My voice was barely a whisper. I don't know what to say. Say nothing, he said. Just listen. I want to give you a chance. A real one. To my company. There's a position open, temporary at first, but I think you can handle it. If you want it, that is. My mind reeled. My fingers clutched Sophie's hand. Temporary? Handle it? What if I fail? What if I can't do it? My thoughts swirled like a storm. But then I looked at Sophie, smiling softly, trusting me completely. And I realized I couldn't let fear stop me anymore. I'll try, I said finally, my voice trembling. Michael's smile grew just a little, subtle but genuine. That's all I ask. Just try. Nothing more. And just like that, a spark of hope lit up inside me. It was tiny, fragile, like the first flicker of sunlight through dark clouds. But it was there. And for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. We left the office and I drove back to the car with Sophie, my mind spinning with what could happen. The city lights reflected in the rain-slick streets, and I realized that life might actually be changing, one small step at a time. And I knew deep down that nothing would ever feel the same again. That night, as I tucked Sophie into her little corner of the back seat, I whispered, "Mommy's going to try, okay? Just you and me." She smiled in her sleep, and I felt a warmth that no car seat or blanket could provide. Something real. Something worth fighting for. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew that the hardest part wasn't just surviving anymore. The hardest part was stepping into a world that had always seemed so far away, and daring to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone like Michael Reed could actually help me find my way out. The next few days felt like a dream. I couldn't stop thinking about Michael and the opportunity he had offered. Every time I glanced at Sophie, playing quietly with her little stuffed bunny in the back seat, I imagined a life where we didn't have to sleep in a car, where she had a proper bed, where I didn't have to feel so small and invisible. The idea seemed impossible, but for the first time in months it felt like it might actually happen. I showed up at Michael's office the morning he asked me to start. I had no clue what to expect. The lobby was huge. The air smelled faintly of coffee and polished wood. People in sharp suits walked past me with papers in their hands, talking on phones, completely unaware of the storm of fear and hope raging inside me. I felt like an imposter. A single mom in worn sneakers, walking into a world that had never been mine. Michael was there to greet me, waiting with a calm smile. "Emily," he said, "I'm glad you're here. Don't worry, you'll do fine. Just take it one step at a time." His voice was steady, kind, and I felt a little of the panic in my chest ease. The position he offered was simple in description but challenging in reality. I would be helping with administrative tasks, organizing schedules, assisting clients, and learning the basics of office work. Nothing glamorous, nothing fancy, but it was a start. And right now I needed a start more than anything. The first hour was overwhelming. Computers, emails, printers, phones ringing nonstop. I felt completely lost. My hands shook as I typed my first email, and I dropped a stack of papers twice before Michael quietly came over to help me. "Take a deep breath," he said softly, guiding my hands. "You'll get it. Don't worry about mistakes. Everyone starts somewhere." His patience and calm energy made me feel seen. Not judged, not pitied, just acknowledged. That was something I hadn't felt in a long time. Someone actually believed I could do this. And I wanted to believe it too. Sophie stayed with me that morning, sitting quietly in the little play area Michael's assistant had helped set up, coloring in her notebook. Occasionally, she would look up and smile at me, and my heart melted. I had to do this. I had to succeed, not just for me but for her. The day went on, and slowly I started to find my rhythm. Michael would check in quietly, offering tips, guidance, and encouragement without making me feel stupid or overwhelmed. By lunchtime, I had completed tasks that earlier seemed impossible. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. After lunch, Michael asked if I could stay a bit longer to help prepare for an important meeting. I nodded, though my nerves were on fire. This was my chance to prove that I belonged here. As I worked, Michael quietly observed from his desk, occasionally offering a word of advice or a gentle nod of approval. Felt strange. Comfortable, even. Later, when the office quieted down, Michael called me into his office. "Emily, you're doing really well," he said. "I know it's a lot to take in, and I know it's different from what you're used to, but I can see how hard you're trying, and that's more important than anything." I felt a lump form in my throat. No one had said that to me in months. No one had noticed the effort I put in to survive, to keep Sophie safe, to keep myself together. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice shaking. I really want to do my best." Michael smiled, leaning back in his chair. "I know you will. And Emily, don't be afraid to ask for help. You don't have to do this alone." His words stayed with me long after I left the office that day. They made me realize that this wasn't just about a job. It wasn't just about money or a roof over our heads. It was about being seen, being valued, and being given a chance to grow. That night, back in my car, I watched Sophie sleep under the thin blanket. I couldn't help but smile. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Tomorrow would be another challenging day, another test of my courage, but I knew I wasn't alone anymore. And somewhere deep inside, I felt a strange but exciting thrill. The feeling that life was about to change in ways I couldn't even imagine yet. The next morning, I woke up feeling a strange mix of excitement and fear. Sophie was still asleep, her tiny hands curled around her blanket. I stared out the car window at the city streets glistening from last night's rain, taking a deep breath. Today was important. Michael had asked me to come in early to help with a big client presentation. I had never done anything like this before. My heart raced at the thought of messing up, but I knew I couldn't back down now. Not when Sophie's little eyes were counting on me. I parked near the office, my stomach twisting with nerves. The lobby felt colder this morning, sharper somehow, and I felt out of place in my simple outfit. People passed by, looking busy and confident. I wondered if they would notice me or worse, judge me. But then I reminded myself, I was here for a reason. I was given a chance and I had to take it. Michael greeted me at the door, his calm presence making my pulse slow a little. "Emily," he said with a small smile. "Good morning. Ready for today?" I nodded, gripping my bag tightly. "I think so," I said, though my voice trembled. He led me to the conference room where the team was already setting up. "Don't worry," he whispered. "Just help organize things and stay focused. You'll do fine." The meeting started and I quickly realized how fast everything moved. Papers, slides, client calls, emails, my hands shook as I tried to keep up. At one point, I spilled a cup of coffee near some important documents. I froze, heart pounding, expecting someone to scold me. But Michael calmly handed me some napkins and whispered, "It's okay. Just focus on the next step." That small act, that tiny bit of understanding gave me courage. I realized something important. Mistakes didn't have to mean failure. I just had to keep trying. And I did. I organized the papers, helped set up the slides, and even managed to answer a question from a client under Michael's gentle guidance. By the end of the meeting, I felt exhausted but proud. After the clients left, Michael called me into his office again. "Emily, I want you to know something," he said. "I see your dedication. I see how hard you're trying. That's rare, especially in a world where people often give up too quickly." I looked at him, unsure what to say. My throat was tight and my eyes felt wet. I'm just trying not to let Sophie down," I said softly. He nodded. "And you're doing more than that. You're learning, growing, proving to yourself that you can do this. That's what really matters." His words warmed me, but the next part caught me off guard. "Emily, I want to give you a bigger responsibility. There's a project coming up that I think you can help lead. It's temporary, but it's important. If you succeed, it could change a lot for you and Sophie." I felt my chest tighten. A bigger responsibility? Me? Leading a project? Fear and excitement collided inside me. What if I failed? What if I wasn't good enough? But then I looked at Sophie in my mind, her little face trusting me, and I realized I couldn't let fear control me anymore. "I'll try," I said, voice firm despite the tremble. Michael smiled just a little. "That's all I ask. Try your best, and I'll support you along the way." The next few days were intense. I balanced work tasks, learning fast, making mistakes, and slowly improving. Michael continued to guide me quietly, never hovering but always watching, encouraging me when I needed it most. Some coworkers were skeptical at first, but my determination started to show. Even small achievements felt monumental. Every time I completed a task successfully, I imagined Sophie smiling, imagining a life without fear, and it kept me going. One evening, after a particularly long day, Michael handed me a folder. Emily, review this tonight. It's for tomorrow's presentation. I know it's a lot, but I trust you can handle it. I took the folder, my hands trembling slightly. I looked at him, realizing something I hadn't admitted before. I was terrified, yes, but I also felt alive. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of confidence, a sense of purpose. And I knew that this was more than just a job. It was a chance to change our lives. That night, back in the car, I spread out the papers across the back seat and started going through them. Sophie was asleep in her little blanket again, her soft breathing a reminder of why I had to keep pushing. I whispered to her, "Mommy's going to do her best, okay? We're going to be okay." The rain had stopped, and the city lights reflected on the wet streets like tiny promises of hope. I didn't know exactly what the next day would bring. I didn't know if I would succeed or fail. But I knew one thing. I wasn't giving up. Not now, not ever. And deep inside, a feeling stirred. A feeling I hadn't felt in a long time, excitement for the future. The next few weeks were the hardest I had ever faced. Every day felt like a test, and some days I wasn't sure if I would pass. Balancing work and taking care of Sophie was exhausting. I barely slept, and most nights I stayed in the car going over spreadsheets and emails, trying to make sure I didn't make a mistake the next day. My hands ached from typing, my eyes burned from staring at screens, and my heart felt heavy with worry, but I couldn't stop. Sophie depended on me, and for the first time I had something to fight for that felt real. At work, some people were skeptical. They whispered, questioned my abilities, wondered if a single mom living in a car could really handle a professional job. First, their doubts hurt. I felt small, like maybe they were right. But Michael's quiet confidence in me never wavered. Every time I felt ready to give up, I remembered the way he had looked at me in the office, believing I could do more than survive. I could succeed. That belief became a shield I clutched tightly every day. One morning, I arrived early to prepare for a big meeting. The project Michael had given me was complex, and it required me to coordinate with multiple clients and staff members. I was nervous. My hands shook as I laid out the papers, double-checked the presentation, and rehearsed the notes in my head. Sophie was with me, coloring quietly in her notebook, but I could see her peeking at me now and then. She didn't say anything, but her little smile gave me strength. The meeting started and everything moved fast. Clients asked questions, charts and slides moved across the screen, and my heart pounded like it would burst. I stumbled on one point, my voice shaking, and I thought everyone would notice my fear, judge me, dismiss me. But then Michael leaned slightly toward me, whispering, "Keep going. You've got this." His words were like a lifeline. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and finished my part clearly, calmly, and confidently. By the end of the meeting, I realized something incredible. I had done it. I had faced the challenge, and I hadn't fallen apart. The clients were impressed, Michael smiled approvingly, and some of the skeptical coworkers gave me small nods of respect. It was a small victory, but to me it felt like climbing a mountain I had thought impossible. Evenings were still difficult. Driving back to the car, cooking little meals for Sophie, and planning for the next day left me exhausted. Some nights I cried quietly, letting the fear and frustration out when no one could see. But each morning I reminded myself why I was doing this. Every struggle, every mistake, every long night, it was all worth it for Sophie, and for the life I wanted to build for us. One day Michael called me into his office. "Emily," he said, "I've been watching your progress. I know it hasn't been easy, but you've handled it incredibly well. I think it's time we talk about the next step." My stomach tightened. Next step? Could this really mean more responsibility?
À permanent position?
I swallowed hard, trying not to show my excitement and fear at the same time. "I want to offer you a permanent role here," Michael continued. "With this role, you'll have more stability, support, and the opportunity to grow further. I believe in you, Emily. I think you've earned this chance." Tears welled up in my eyes.
Permanent.
Stability. Growth. Words I hadn't dared dream of when I was sleeping in my car, counting the hours until morning. I nodded, my voice barely a whisper. "Thank you. I won't let you down." Michael smiled warmly. "I know you won't." That night, as I tucked Sophie into her little corner in the back seat, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Real hope. I realized that this wasn't just about a job or money or a place to sleep. It was about believing in myself, about taking risks, and about daring to dream again. Sophie stirred slightly and I whispered, "Mommy's going to be okay, Sophie. We're going to be okay." The city lights reflected on the wet streets outside, like tiny sparks of possibility. I looked at them, thinking about how far I had come in such a short time. From a hopeless night in a car to facing challenges, learning, growing, and finally finding someone who believed in me. It felt like a miracle. And deep down I knew the hardest part was over. The journey wasn't finished, but I was ready for whatever came next. For the first time in a long time, I slept with a sense of peace, knowing that tomorrow wouldn't just be another day of survival. It would be a day of progress, a day closer to the life Sophie and I deserved. And in my heart, I knew that life had finally started to turn in our favor. The morning sunlight streamed through the car window as I sat with Sophie, sipping a small cup of coffee and feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. Today wasn't like any other day. It was the day I would finally leave this car behind. My heart beat fast, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from hope. I parked near Michael's office for the last time as a temporary employee. Today I would officially start my permanent role. Walking into the building, I felt a sense of pride I hadn't known in months. The lobby, the polished floors, the people bustling around, it all felt different now. It wasn't intimidating. It was a world I belonged to. Michael was waiting for me, standing tall and calm, his familiar warm smile greeting me. "Emily," he said. "Welcome to your new beginning." I smiled, my chest tight with emotion. "Thank you," I whispered. It felt surreal. A few months ago, I had been living in my car, unsure how to survive the night. And now I had a real job, real hope, and a chance to build a future. The first day in my new role was challenging but exciting. I helped organize meetings, interacted with clients, and even led a small project that I had feared would overwhelm me. With Michael's guidance and quiet encouragement, I realized something incredible. I was capable. I could do this. I could succeed. During lunch, Sophie sat in the little play area Michael's assistant had set up, giggling as she drew pictures of our new apartment, a place we didn't have yet, but that already felt real in her imagination. I watched her and felt tears sting my eyes. This was why I had fought so hard. For her happiness. For her future. Days turned into weeks and slowly life began to feel normal again. We moved into a small cozy apartment, a real home. Sophie had her own room, her toys neatly arranged, a proper bed to sleep in. I cooked dinner without worrying if the next day would be spent in a car. I even bought new clothes for both of us. Little things that felt luxurious after months of surviving with nothing. One evening, Michael called me into his office again. "Emily," he said, "I want to recognize all the work you've done. You've grown so much and I'm proud of you. You've proven that hard work, courage, and determination can truly change a life." I felt my chest swell with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you," I said softly. "You gave me a chance when no one else would." Michael shook his head. "No, Emily. You gave yourself this chance. I only opened the door. You walked through it." That night, as I tucked Sophie into her soft bed, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in months. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding her tiny hand. "Mommy promised you a better life," I whispered. "And we're living it now. You and me, Sophie. We're going to be okay." She smiled in her sleep, and I knew she understood in her own way. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. I had a job, a home, hope, and someone who believed in me. Most importantly, I had Sophie, my reason, my strength, my little miracle. Looking back, I realized that one rainy night, one knock on my car window had started it all. It had changed our lives forever. From that night of fear, uncertainty, and despair, we had stepped into a life filled with opportunity, love, and hope. Life wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, and there always would be. But for the first time, I felt ready to face them. Because now I knew something important. Even when life seems hopeless, a single moment, a single chance can change everything. And we were proof of that. Sophie stirred, smiling in her sleep, and I whispered once more. "We made it, baby. We made it." And for the first time in a long time, I believed it.